So let's talk a little bit about that role of how you grew in that dark season of learning all this different stuff. How did people come alongside of you, other godly women, maybe other women in leadership, other pastors' wives? Because I know that's a part of your story and journey of how you've had people come alongside of you. You talked about male empowerment, but how have other women, particularly accountability, soul care, just other people that have gone before you, like that verse I think in Titus 2, just the older woman coming beside someone below them or younger. How did that help you in ministry?
Yeah. That's a great question, and I'm thankful for that question. So God, and it's been a handful, and I'm so thankful for each and every single one of them. At Spanish River Church, there were 2 women who were part of the outreach department that poured into me. And then a pastor's wife, Nori Nicholas, Shannon Kiedis. The list could go on of the women that not just like, oh, they took me out for coffee, but they like invested in me. They showed me and talked to me about what it meant to be a woman, a Christian woman, let alone like a woman in ministry. And so that happened early on for me. And so I'm so thankful for that. And then you fast forward and, I was single, no kids, but like there was so much of that gleaning from them. I was so thankful for their wisdom. And then like fast forward to when I was in Michigan, we were a part of, our church community Bible study, but I was also a new pastor's wife. And so I went on this website, the only one I knew of, called Leading and Loving It. And great organization for pastors' wives and women in ministry. And I was like, oh, I want to just join a group, meet some other pastors' wives, like get together and figure this thing out, right? And so I went on, there was a map, like there was no red dot where I was in Michigan. And so I emailed them, of course, thinking that they just didn't update their website. All right, that was my thought process. Not that there were no groups in Michigan. So I emailed them and I was like, hey, there's no dot. Like, where's the group, right? So they emailed me back and they're like, oh, we don't have a group in Michigan yet. Would you like to start one? I was like, no, I just came pastors like 45 days ago. Like, like, yeah, like I'm a leader, but like, no. And so of course, like I started one. And so that's also just a thing for me, like between me and the Lord's like, go and I'm with you. And I'm like, okay, even if I'm scared or whatever, like that spirit of courage. And so I started one and there were 4 of us and we met once a month and it was beautiful. And God provided for me in that hard, dark season. Like that was a lonely season. It was a season where our marriage became so, it was thriving. Like it became so real for both of us. And so like we both are so thankful. Like we knew Jesus so much before that and were ministry minded before that season hit. And so like those women were like my third safe space because we had a healthy church and we had a healthy marriage, but like I needed someone else who like got it. Who was so like-minded, who just like got it. Like they would finish my sentence. I didn't even have to share like a complete story and they would be like, I got you, and so that was life-giving during a really hard, different kind of season. And so from there, we had all of our kids in Michigan, and then that was a different season, and those women walked with me in that. They were further along in their Christianity, also pastors' wives roles, and they all had like kids already. And so they walked with me in that. And then we have 3 kids. We have a 6-year-old and twins that are 5. After our twins, I had really bad postpartum. And so there were really just a dark season and a dark season in our marriage and our family. Like it was a hard season and church continues, like ministry doesn't stop because you're having a hard time in your family life. And, my husband is an incredible gift. Like he is a tangible gospel to me. And I don't know how he did it in that season. I mean, I do know how he did it, but, like there was some really dark waves in that, and God provided through those women. We didn't call it a cohort, but like now I know, like we would use that these days, that language, but to be that sacred space for me.
Let's just sort of close and finish up on like what God is doing now through Church United and Soul Care and Cohort, because you hear that story and you're like, man, I wish I had some of that. How are you developing and creating soul care cohorts in our area, in our region? What does that look like and why are you doing that?
Great questions. So Church United of South Florida. The men's side of Church United for pastors and different ministry roles of different leaders and male leadership, they've had this soul care ministry as a part of Church United for about 5 or 6 years now. So Church United started out of hardship and brokenness, and we've watched God use that to bring healthy leaders, healthy churches, healthy communities. And so pastors getting together and really digging deep into their backstage, not just the front stage on a Sunday or throughout the week, but their backstage with each other, not as a counseling group, but as preventative and creating more health. And so the soul care side of the men's side of Church United has been going, and women are always invited. Church United has always invited us women to like the gatherings and like all the different creative spaces. However, about a year ago, I was actually looking to join a cohort. I was looking to join a women in leadership or a pastor's wife group like I had in Michigan.
Yeah.
And so again, kind of very similar story. I texted Casey, who's our lead pastor, who he leads one of the soul care cohorts for Church United for the men in Palm Beach and Delray. And I texted him, hey, like, is there a women's one that I can join? And he was just like, oh, text Eddie Copeland, who's on the team, one of the leads at Church United. He's like, text him and ask him. I was like, great. So he sent me his number. I texted Eddie. Eddie's like, no, but would you consider, helping us process like what that would look like? And I was like, oh, fine. Right. And so, no, there was a joy in there, but I initially was a little reluctant because I was like, oh man, like I really just wanted to join, but God did what God does. And so I had a conversation with Eddie and his wife, Sarah, and a couple others from Church United. And we just started to pray, and we started to pray and process like all of so there's been a few others, Melissa Ellswick, like there's Elizabeth Mitchell, there's been others that have gone before in South Florida for pastors' wives and women in leadership, and God has used them in tremendous ways, but there wasn't anything like a system where like someone like I can like just join that. And so we were thinking and praying for a couple of months of what that would look like for the women of South Florida, both pastors' wives and women in leadership, to be a part of soul care. And so God put on our hearts a couple of women to put together a women's leadership team, specifically for soul care for South Florida. And so God did that. There are 10 women on this team from Palm Beach and Broward, different seasons, some pastors' wives, women in leadership. Some have kids, some don't, some are married, some are not. And it's just this beautiful, diverse team that gets to lead out on the women's soul care leadership team. And I am humbled and honored to be a part of this team. Like these sisters are killing it for
they're
the kingdom
rocking
of
it,
God,
bro.
man.
They're going after it. It's amazing.
Yeah, like I just sit there, I'm like, oh, I just want to hear you talk. And but this team, and then from there we all we did a survey to just friends who are in ministry and pastors' wives, asking them 10 questions just organically. And one of the questions was, are you currently experiencing burnout? And 80%, and this is an anonymous survey, but 80% said yes. And so we know that it's probably higher than that. They just didn't want to answer, which I understand. And so we took that as affirmation to pursuing the soul care cohorts. So with some, we just kind of processed through and met with some other women to be potential soul care facilitators for the cohorts. So we just this month, actually this week, have launched. There are 15 cohorts altogether for both Palm Beach and Broward. Woo-hoo. And that woohoo is right.
That's right.
That includes men and women cohorts. But we do have specific groupings. So there's a lead pastor's wife cohort in Broward, a lead pastor's wife cohort in Palm Beach. There's a women in leadership cohort in Broward, one in Palm Beach. And so we have 8 women's specific cohorts happening right now. And within that, there are specific groupings. And so we launched it at the Soul Care Conference that Church United put on in August. We are still taking registrations.
That's right.
And so you just go to Church United / Soul Care Cohorts, and you could sign up to be a participant if you're a pastor's wife or a woman in leadership.